Friendships, they can be the absolute best thing in our lives, the source of our biggest joys. But let's be real, they can also cause some of our deepest pain. We all want those meaningful connections, right? But it's complicated. So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful take on why that is and maybe, just maybe, figure out what we can do about it. It really all boils down to this one question. Why do the relationships we care about the most often hurt us the most? We're about to unpack some ideas that might just flip the script on how you see your entire social world. Okay, first things first, we have to start with this foundational truth. Genuine friendship, it's not a passive thing. It actually has a cost. And this quote really nails a crucial idea. Our limitations, the fact that we don't have infinite time or energy, are exactly what makes friendships so valuable. Think about it. When a friend who is totally swamped makes time for you, that gesture means so much more, right? It's a real choice, a genuine sacrifice that says, hey, you matter. So, if friendship is a real investment, what's one of the biggest things that trips us up when we're trying to make a good one? Well, it's our tendency to just rely on that initial chemistry, those snap judgments that can be so misleading. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You meet someone and you instantly think, oh, nope, not for me, or the total opposite. But the source material for this explainer gives a perfect example of why that can be a massive mistake. So the speaker tells this story about meeting a man named Fred Gray, and it was during a really tense situation. His immediate gut reaction was totally negative. He thought, this guy is biased, he's not impartial at all. It was a completely negative first impression, all based on that one moment. But then, over time, as he got the whole picture, a totally different reality came to light. He realized Fred wasn't biased in the slightest. He was actually trying to de-escalate everything to keep the peace. That initial judgment, it was dead wrong, simply because it didn't have all the facts. And this is where it all comes together. That same man, Fred Gray, and others, they became true friends. The kind of friends who tell you the hard truths. They told the speaker something he really didn't want to hear, but absolutely needed to. And that's the kind of deep friendship you can only get when you push past those first assumptions. So here's the big lesson from all that. Just because the chemistry isn't there right away, doesn't mean that person is your enemy. It's not an automatic conflict. Sometimes you just don't click. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. All right, let's shift gears and talk about another thing that causes so much friendship anxiety. This whole numbers game. That pressure to have a massive circle of friends just to feel like you're doing okay. So what is a realistic number of friends to have? Well, this number, 150, it's a fantastic starting point for that conversation. It comes from a really fascinating idea called Dunbar's number. So basically, an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar suggested that our brains can only really handle maintaining about 150 stable relationships. The point isn't to have hundreds of friends like you're collecting baseball cards. It's about meaningful connection. Honestly, having even 5 true friends is an incredible blessing. And this really gets to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? We can get so consumed with trying to win over the people who don't see us that we become completely blind to the ones who are already right there in our corner, just waiting for us to notice them. It's just a recipe for missing out on the great connections we already have. And this kind of possessive thinking is tied directly to that numbers game. The source material calls this adolescent thinking, and that's exactly what it is. A mature view of the world understands that friendships aren't exclusive property. Your friends are allowed to have other friends, and it's not some kind of threat to you. Okay, so if it's not about snap judgments or how many friends we have, then where does that deep, nagging feeling of loneliness really come from? Well, the argument here is that the root cause is often an inside job. This slide lays out this really powerful and honestly pretty common cycle. Let's walk through it. It starts with step 1. We're all carrying around unhealed stuff from our past. Then step 2. When we're alone, that silence forces us to face all those uncomfortable feelings. So what do? We jump to step 3. We go find people, not really for connection, but for a distraction. And that leads to the final step. We put this enormous, totally unfair pressure on our friendships to save us from our own thoughts. As this quote says so perfectly, being with other people can just become an escape from ourselves. We can talk about sports, work, the weather, literally anything to avoid that quiet moment where we might have to confront how we're really feeling.
So, from this point of view, loneliness isn't just a lack of people, it's a fear of being with yourself.
And that brings us to the final and I think the most important takeaway of this whole thing. If the problem starts on the inside, well, then the solution has to start there too. The source material points to this core principle of self-examination as the absolute first step. Before you can even think about building healthy relationships with other people, you've got to build a healthy one with yourself. And that means being willing to look inward and understand your own history, your own wounds, and your own patterns.
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it all. If our past left us feeling like we were missing something, validation, security, whatever it is, we often, without even realizing it, expect our new friends to fill that hole. But they can't. It is an impossible job. You're asking someone to fix a past they weren't even a part of. And that unfair expectation is what ends up breaking so many friendships.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really powerful thought to consider. What if the whole journey to finding better friendships doesn't start with finding the right people out there, but with actually becoming comfortable and at peace with the person right here? What if the true key to connection is learning how to be your own best friend first?